Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. As usual, I like to take the time to thank my guests because I learned a couple of things in this journey of mine that there's a few things I deem very expensive. One is time. And Tyler, I thank you for coming and sharing some of this commodity because that is some precious stuff. The other is your journey. It houses information that made you who you are today. And it is my honor to have you here so that you can entrust us with this information so that me, myself, and all the listeners will become better human spirits as well. Thank you so much, Tyler, for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
Thanks for having me, Ken. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, man. Talk to the people. Tell them the things that you have right now in your life that keeps you busy and keeps you moving, as they say. What have you created?
What have I created? At this point in life, I am currently the CEO of a business growth agency out of Denver. And so that consumes a large portion of my life. But basically, we specialize in helping companies reposition and grow bottom line revenue through marketing channels online. And while earning revenue from that, I guess I would classify myself as a serial entrepreneur. I love the mechanics and the puzzle-like nature of business because everything has a solution. It's very mathematical. There's obviously, the people component, and I'd like to say that I have some sort of level of adequate EQ. So all that to say this, like people obviously, mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not just math, but I love investing in property, specifically either from luxury vacation property and doing flips there or long-term hold or land dev deals. So I just am really fascinated by the business space in general. And so I continue to try to diversify as I can. And then I redeploy larger portions of that capital. And thank you for, by the way, just even in your introduction, like the value of time, you're right. I think that's one thing we can't buy and get back. And so that's another thing that I've tried to give to others, not even just in the business sense, but more in the impact sense, which we can talk about later. But that's what's keeping me busy right now. I'm married as well. We have a baby on the way. So
Congrats.
sure I'm going to get much busier. So
I'm sure you will.
Yeah.
Hey guys, everyone that's listening to us, man, this is really good. I'm glad that Tyler came out and said it. Those of you that are in the space of spirituality, in the sense that you may are now starting being an entrepreneur, putting out a podcast, or you're those that are listening, you're an entrepreneur out there, and you're kind of lost. We have someone right here that is willing and able and is gifted in that space to bring you the knowledge that is necessary to help you out in that space. So you guys, I'm gonna give you all the information so that you can get in touch with Tyler, because that's important, because I want you guys to be able to do the things that get you excited. And sometimes you don't know the direction as to where to go. This young man can guide you guys. And again, I'll give you guys all of Tyler's information because it is necessary. My goal is that you guys chase your dreams, man. So Tyler, talk to us. We are here. We kind of investigate, how did you get here, man? Talk to us as to the first, people call it the family. I call it the lab. From time to time, we have these scientists that are called parents, and they're just trying to work with the thesis that they have developed through their life and their class, if you will. And they are now going to teach you and I and deposit information into us. How was your family life? What was that structure like when you were a young buck, as they say?
Sure. I was born in the Midwest and raised in kind of an agricultural setting. So a lot of my family farmed. So what comes from that, if there's people who haven't experienced that, is forced work ethic. So you don't have a choice. And at the time, to be honest, you don't really know any different. You just
You're
you're waking up.
volunteering, Tyler. You're volunteering. It's the military.
Exactly. So it's there's a lot to do. And I remember, man, at age 12, I was framing houses, our house, on a third story. eating
Wow.
pizza and drinking Surge. It used to be popular back when I was young. But yeah, I remember that stuff. And then I look at 12-year-olds today and I'm like, where's your construction belt? Wait, was I tricked? So I was doing that. We had horses, putting in fence posts, just a lot of work. That's what I
Yeah.
remember, a lot of work. I do remember my parents, and to your point, I like that. Like I have a thesis as well that I think one of the greatest pieces of joy that I predict, my firstborn's on the way, so I can't
Yeah.
be held as a qualified person, but I think we strive to be better than our parents. And I think that
Yes.
that's what they tried to do as well. And
Yeah.
so, and then the older you get as well, and again, I didn't realize a lot of this when I was younger, but you realize they genuinely did the best they could with what they had.
Yes.
And then you realize the cards that they were dealt. Fast forward a little bit, like I remember we grew up in a trailer.
Yeah.
So we,
Yeah.
and we're lucky to have cover, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
slowly I remember, and this is vague, right? Because I'm 3 years old, 5 years old, and on up. My dad just kept getting, or I would assume getting better jobs or trying to work harder. And then we got a house. And
Yeah.
then from
Yeah.
a house, we moved to a different town, and then we built our own house. And so it's kind of cool, I guess, even subconsciously when you're young, a lot of that memory retention is hard to formally recall, but
Yeah.
that kind of sticks with you, the correlation between hard work, at least for me, and output. We were raised in a Christian home, and
Mhm.
so in just spirituality sense, I feel like it's worth mentioning.
Yeah.
Not as foreign, which I think is cool. And I know I'll also just mention some people have really bad experiences just with religion in
Yeah.
general.
Oh yeah.
I was fortunate enough; mine wasn't. It was genuinely centered around love and loving people. And as I got older, I learned that others are kind of centered around judgment and not loving
Yes.
people. So I was feel
Yeah.
blessed. Um, yeah. So fast forward, I'm just going to keep going until you
Yeah,
tell
yeah,
me to
yeah.
stop. But
I'm
yes,
listening to it. We want
yeah,
to know about that as to because I call it the formative years and science and
yeah,
all of the other disciplines talk to us about the formative years, what take place there, some of the incidents that
sure.
happen that we as young ones
Hmm.
we based on our perception of that incident it traumatizes us and from that
Sure,
and sometimes it's just a simple thing your parent may say hey you may come for their attention you say I'm and they look you said not now I'm busy I don't have the time and whatever
sure,
and that little individual interprets it like the parents don't have any time for them and they create a little
sure.
thing there and it changes their life. So, as you're talking about the farm, I grew up on the farm, so I know the
Oh yeah,
volunteerism that goes into that.
nice.
When you're volunteering from early in the morning until late at night
That's right.
in the volunteer
Yep,
period goes. So, yeah, here you are growing in the spiritual home and experiencing the love and all of that. So, how did this volunteer lifestyle and the Christian piece of it with the love experience, how did it affect you, Tyler? How
hmm,
did it make you feel? What type of interpretation did you perceive out of that type of atmosphere living in it?
sure. I a couple things I perceived, and certainly there were fights. There were, it's normal
Yeah.
family and things of that nature. I'd say the good and the bad, just to try to stick to the top five and the bottom 5%. Top five is genuinely I correlated working for other people as kind of a gift or a way to show love, and
Hmm.
so and then giving. It's something that like I just remember whether it's like mowing somebody's lawn, and by the way, out in the middle of nowhere, that's not
Yeah.
like a walk next door. That's that's putting your stuff in a trailer, like a 72-inch lawnmower deck in a trailer and driving a couple miles and then mowing for an hour because people's yards are huge. And so
Yeah.
so I mean just a lot of that correlating work ethic with value. And
Hmm.
so part of that is a double-edged sword. I've done a lot of
Yeah.
work on my own as well, through some specific groups, but like the performance-based love piece,
Yeah.
like a lot of entrepreneurs specifically that I talk to also share that. Like and it's not that there's never enough because it's one, it's falling in love with the journey, which is more important than like trying to get dollars or whatever the
Yeah.
goal is. But
Yeah.
two, I'll just speak for myself. I hold myself to a standard that I can't ever achieve. And so that's really interesting, right? Because from the outside, people
Yeah.
look at business success or whatever you're doing, and they praise that. And then, of course, you can come back and, well, a lot of hard work will get you there. Yeah, that's true. But at the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
point in time, like if you can't ever shut your mind off and it's just the next thing or it's just refining, that's certainly disruptive. So I'd say, outside of the other pieces of childhood, I guess that sticks out the most. It's probably a common answer, and it's unfortunate that it is, but like, parents were divorced, went through that. I was fortunate enough to have my two parents in the home until I
Mhm.
graduated and left the home. My
Yeah.
siblings were not, and you know, from speaking with them, like that's measurable. It's not just
Yeah. Yeah.
hey, maybe we're all the same. It's like, no, you can actually see how that's measured differently. And
You
so
can
those
quantify
are
it,
the
man.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really can
Yeah.
through, yeah, just, it's weird. It's hard to
Behaviors,
put words to it. That's
attitudes,
right. Yep.
all of those um, tangible, untangibles, as they say.
Right. Yeah.
Those are the things that can definitely see a quantitative response to that trauma
Right.
in the lives of the children that,
Hmm.
again, based on the age as to when that trauma take place. And it does go into years of all the different places. I saw it. I have five boys, man. You're just starting
Oh,
your
wow.
tribe. I'm a little ahead of you, so I know the relationships that I had to learn because I was working through my trauma, and in
Yeah.
many ways inflicting damage on my trauma on my kids as I'm trying to figure out mine.
Yeah.
And I remember, Tyler, every time um, I would mess up, if you will. I remember kneeling down and facing my boys and begging and asking for their forgiveness because I had messed up.
Hmm.
And I used to I didn't want to stand up and did that. I wanted to come face to face with them to let them know I wanted to come on a level where they can relate to me and I can relate to them in our looking at each other's eyes as men and seeing the um, the value, the truth of my words and my confession to them because I wanted them to learn and me, you know,
Yeah.
the value of those times. So here you are, Tyler. You were able to transition from the divorce a little earlier than the other siblings. Um, where did you spare to as far as school, and why did you pick the field that you went into?
Sure. So for listeners, I know that you know this just from some brief research, but so my dad was in law enforcement. And he wasn't always, but I remember, moving from security, call it security guard, to law enforcement officer, to starting a police department, to federal law enforcement. So again, back to
Yeah,
that work terrain, that exponential growth. Um, that's what I was able to see. And of course, I think it's natural for, especially, boys to try to follow their father's footsteps, especially if
yeah,
that respect is there.
yeah,
And so I did that. That was my degree. Went to the University of Nebraska. Um, Part of my family too that I would mention here that's pretty important. I had a full-time job since I was 12. My first job was working at a tomato place out in the middle of nowhere. It's very strange now that I remember it. I'm like, man, my parents let me work there. But I was working full time and then going to school, and that's really weird. I mean, that's middle school. That's not even high
yeah,
school. And skipped around through restaurants and everything. Just been working since. But part of the reason I mentioned that is I had to pay my own way through college.
Mhm.
Um, and so yeah, I mean, I was like, well, I'm really going to think about this carefully before I just go rack up debt. So I went to a community college, did all the gen eds, paid for those.
Mhm.
Went to the University of Nebraska for a short stint because it is expensive. And then
Yeah.
I wrote the dean and got into an accelerated program and finished my degree in 9 months, which was
Nice.
not super fun. But yeah, so I went into federal law enforcement. I didn't have a desire, while I respect police, I didn't have a desire to do a lot of what they do.
Hmm.
Um, and again, with respect, I saw half of it as babysitting full-grown adults. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. Um, because like, and you can see it even on their face if you're driving by, they're just like, oh, I'm here again. You know what I mean? But but what, what did impact me, just the age, in high school, 9/11 happened for me.
Yeah.
And so that's the only reason DHS exists. And so
Yeah.
that's where I
Yeah.
went. I'm like, well, I want to keep that from happening, and I want to help people. And so I did that for a few years, worked for 2 different government agencies and did some contracting work. And while the passion to help people was there, that's
Hmm.
not where I was meant to be, if you want to call it that. That's not where I had my highest and best use.
Yeah.
And so created a marketing company out of thin air, kid you not. I remember
Let
swiping a
me
credit card. Yeah, go
let me
ahead.
ask you let me ask you a question on that.
Yeah,
What was your process? Where did it come from? When you said out of thin air, you're in law
sure.
enforcement, you're dealing with that aspect, and you're like out of thin air. So talk to
Right.
me about right there, about out of thin air,
Sure.
as to was it brewing inside? What was your mind? What was
Hmm.
playing in those thought patterns of yours that caused you to create it out of thin air?
Sure. Yeah. So I've always been entrepreneurial, and
Hmm.
from making and trying to sell things. I have strange memories, even back in like middle school. There used to be these little beads that you'd put together in the shapes of animals, and they'd be keychains. And I sold them. I made them and sold
Okay.
them. And instead of buying the pre-made packs, I'd go to like Hobby Lobby with my mom and save up my allowance and buy them and do my own thing at a cheaper cost. In college, I did the same.
Hmm.
um, and so I think I know that creative mind was always there. I
Yeah.
was an artist. I'm a musician as well. And as I get to know more entrepreneurs, I found that there's a lot, especially in marketing, there's tons of musicians in this
Yeah.
space. So there is a sort of a correlation there.
What
There,
instrument you play?
I play guitar, piano, and vocals. So
Bass
I was
and a
yeah.
couple of
Oh,
others.
nice. Very cool. Yeah, great.
So, and
Yeah.
I was in marketing too, so that's why I wanted to say
Come on, man. Yeah, so you get it. We're
that.
brothers there. So,
Yeah.
but I so and I was going to kind of come back to this a little bit, but it makes more sense here. So I did this federal law enforcement gig, and I always had this entitled growth mindset. And
Mhm.
I know that there's all sorts of listeners and more here, but for me in my walk at that time, I'm like, God, why am I not moving up quicker? God, why am I not this? Why am I not
Yeah.
that? And um, I, in law enforcement, just correlate these two. You ask someone to do something, and then you tell them, and then you make them. It
Yeah.
sounds really fierce. You don't want to get to that point. And I have command presence. It's necessary in business, but that's not my nature. I don't want
Yeah.
to powerhouse people. Like, anyway, um, my body broke. So what that
Mm.
means is I woke up one day because I was burning the candle at both ends. I am working full time in the law enforcement realm for DHS, and at night I'm working at restaurants, and
Mhm.
I'm unhappy the whole time because I deserve better because I'm working so hard, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I woke up in the morning one morning and I could not think.
Yeah.
And that's all I remember. And I'm like, whoa, what's happening? And the best I could relate it to, it's kind of a weird, but you get up in the middle of the night to use the restroom, you're half awake. That's
Yeah.
how I felt. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm just tired. Fast forward through the whole day, it didn't go away. Fast forward a week, it didn't go away.
Yeah.
Started freaking out. And then when you start freaking out, you have panic attacks, which I also never
Yeah.
had. So I went to the doctor, started becoming a hypochondriac, because any thinker out there, people who
Yeah.
really like to create more, take that away.
Yeah.
It gets scary very quickly, because that's a part of our identity, and that's a part of what brought me joy. And so I did everything under the stars, from MRIs to EEGs to general practitioners to endocrinology. Finally found out I had almost entirely burnt out my adrenals.
Wow.
And just for listeners, look it up, especially
Yeah,
if you're in
yeah,
the high performance space. Your adrenals are like a size of a walnut over each of your kidneys. They regulate blood pressure, heart rate, temperature, neoepinephrine, literally everything you think that like it's just as important as your thyroid. And so other people are like,
yeah.
oh, I know if you have thyroid issues, you have all these things. So I'll pause there. I don't know if you, if you have any questions, but I tell you that
Yeah,
that journey
I
lasted
can.
2 years, man, and it
I
was
wanted to
hell.
find that out because this journey of ours, that's why I stopped you there at out of thin air. Nothing comes out of thin air. And so I wanted to delve into that. And so the um, the space by which it was created was with, as I call it, and I told you on the onset, Tyler, I call it the day of our visitation. It's an
Hmm.
opportunity to get us to disconnect from the busyness of living.
Yeah,
And once we are divorced from that for a time being, I believe what it comes to do is to slow us down so that we can then begin to allow the thoughts to reside for a moment. Because we are so designed, as you said, you burn yourself out, you're running from one to another, and your thoughts and your ability to process things is not given the opportunity to digest the thoughts for a second. That's why meditation is so important, because meditation to
mhm,
me gives you the bridge, that time to allow the thought to marinate, if you will. And as you
mhm.
begin to marinate the thought, mother it and meditate on that thing and all of these things, it changes you and so forth. And I believe that the day of visitation, Tyler, comes for the conversation with ourselves. Talk to us as you find yourself broken, you're burnt out, everything. You're there, you found this out. What were your steps now that you are moving? Because you have to learn how to change your mind, change your lifestyle, change. How did you, once you gained that information, did you begin to navigate your life from that space?
I was extremely deflated, not only because I had to quit my career, by the way,
Hmm.
in law enforcement that I had worked so hard for, but no doctor could give me a pill that fixes it.
Yeah.
And so I had to just endure. And maybe this will change, in the future, but as it sits right now, if your adrenals are still functioning, you can, through diet restriction and more, try to supplement the healing of those. But
Hmm.
unless they've entirely failed, there is no pill. And you don't want them to fail because then you're on
Yeah.
hormone replacement the rest of your life. Um, so I just had to sit. And that was 2 years of staying inside, you know, little to no funding, ended up renting a bedroom from one of my friends for like $300 a month.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was rough. So part of what kind of led me to even the space that I'm in now was I thought, and this was before my mind had changed because there was a moment that I can um, kind of pinpoint, but I was like, I need to find employment and I need to be able to
Hmm.
work, not in federal land where I'm dealing with tons of people, part of them angry, part of them, I can't be interacting with people
Yeah.
regularly. Plus, it's just not responsible if I'm, you know what I mean? If I'm in that state of mind.
Yeah.
So, like, well, I need a job maybe that I could work on the computer and work at home alone. And I've always loved this even before this, you call it a breakdown or whatever. I like the idea of exclusive knowledge. And part
Hmm.
of one of my capabilities, kind of the gift of gab, both of my parents were type A. They both ended up later starting businesses and being successful, also divorcing. So I don't know if there's a
Yeah.
message in there, but they both were great talkers. So sales, this, that, and the other, or just communication in general, I've enjoyed. And so
Yeah.
I started looking at two different options. One was prosecuting attorney, which I was like, don't really want to work
Hmm.
with angry people anymore. uh, and
More
the
legal.
other was marketing, and specifically SEO,
Yeah.
which was um, basically
Yeah.
maneuvering and optimizing in line with Google's Google's Alignment and being
Hmm.
able to help people grow their business. So I could help people grow revenue and work from home and kind of have this exclusive knowledge set to where I could become a thought leader. And so that was really appealing to me.
Yeah.
And so I swiped a credit card for like $250 for my first masterclass course because I had no idea what it's doing. And I remember it was a gamble. I like,
Yeah.
it was like, man, I got to learn this, because again, living at $300 a month, you know, here in Denver,
Yeah.
that doesn't get you much. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so took that, just kept consuming information. I will say that prior to that physical breakdown, mental breakdown, I was a lot more right brained
Yeah.
than I am now. And that's one of the reasons I moved from the farm life to Colorado in general, um, was for music. And so
Yeah.
I did the band thing for a while and more, and I used to paint. On the other side of this thing, my left brain, if we want to call it that, hyper developed. And I know that because like the drive, the key DNA stuff that we might develop when we're younger based on how we're raised and more, that's
Yeah.
still there, and it certainly helped me. But whatever I have now was not there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's substantial, and I'm
Yeah.
grateful for it. And I'm grateful I got knocked off the horse, so to speak, so I could
Yeah.
sit and pause and wait and redirect my life entirely, because what I'm doing now, I'm able to have more impact than
Yeah.
had I stayed in that space.
And that's the key. I tell people that's why I call it, Tyler, the day of visitation, because
Hmm.
it's a very important appointment, if you will, that is orchestrated on your behalf. And I tell people it'll come in whatever format it comes in. As you mentioned, a broken relationship.
Hmm.
I've interviewed so many people, Tyler, that burnt out and their body just stopped
Really?
functioning. High
Yeah.
performers that were doing it and not notice, and one day it just showed up and they find themselves there and absolutely empty. I had interviewed this young lady that was an Olympian, and she was telling me about some of these things and so forth. So, yeah, I know that space. Here you are. Talk to me. 2 years, Tyler. What were some of the tools that you began to, as you gather information, did you begin to um, uh, a company that you began to utilize to bring you out of the space that you were? Because I know that your body needed the rest, but your
Hmm.
mind is dancing. How did you able to manage your thoughts and bring it in line to allow the body to rest, if you will? How did that dance? Because
Hmm.
as you lay down, Tyler, and you're in your friend's room, whatever, your manhood is all, your thought life is in talking about all that kind of wonderful conversation.
Yeah.
How did you manage that space, man?
Couple things that stick out to me are I had to, so perseverance really lit up,
Hmm.
which is odd because perseverance also is what got me there. So, but um, I knew I just took a really serious look at my body, the vessel that I am in,
Yeah,
and like this is a one-time ride.
yeah.
I cannot break. I was in my 20s when this happened. Like this is
Wow.
should not happen in your 20s.
Yeah,
So I started seeking tons of counsel, pastoral, even non-Western medicine, anything I could. Again,
yeah,
back to that hypochondriac. I'm like, I have to fix this. I have to figure this out, because living through that lens is not sustainable long term. So
hmm,
I'll leave it at that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
so I started taking walks
yeah,
daily, which sounds really simple, but from a health perspective, getting blood moving,
yeah,
getting exposed to a lot of vitamin D, stuff that even we don't do today because we
yeah,
all work in offices. You're in your house and then you jump into your car and then you go to the office. That's it. Like, when are you
hmm,
outside? And so doing that, tons of prayer,
yeah,
um, and dietary, which wasn't fun at all. That was the biggest deflation. I know it sounds weird, but it's like,
yeah,
I remember this great doctor in Aurora, Colorado, Dr. Choi. He was just a great, call him like a guide, because when your life
Hmm.
is burning down, it's really great to have someone there who can understand emotional
Yeah.
ramifications, speak into spiritual, speak into just different aspects, help you feel understood and walk alongside you, because it's much better than your traditional Western go to a doctor, they tell you you're fine, see you next year.
Yeah.
That's very transactional. And so having that was really helpful. At the time, I was dating my wife. And so
Yeah.
that was really radical, primarily because without cortisol regulation, you can't de-stress,
Yeah.
or at least
Yeah.
quickly. And so if I would get angry or upset, which is super easy to do when you're
Yeah.
hormonally imbalanced, I couldn't come down. So I'll summarize that for listeners. I was a jerk big time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she helped me tremendously through that time as well, and was able to kind of nurture. And she always gave me hope too. She would say, like, you're going to get better. I have zero doubts. She didn't have a medical degree, nothing. And
Yeah.
it was past, I just want to say this to make you feel good though. She actually had
Yeah.
100% certainty, and she still talks about that today. And so, yeah, that's really kind of what got me through. And I started investigating more, adaptogenics that support the endocrine system. And,
Yeah.
I know much more than I should about all that stuff, because I had a
Yeah.
long time to learn about it. And so I started
But now
taking
you'll be
those.
able to help, though. You'll be able to, if someone presents to you, um, Tyler, with similar situation,
Yeah.
you can hold their hand and walk with them, and
Hmm.
escort them from the dark place that they are residing into
Yeah.
a space of light. So you can walk with them, and that's a special ability to have, because someone out there needs you.
Hmm.
And the fact that you went through it, I tell people, many of us are, there's a scripture that says, um, there are few that are chosen. And I tell people that the few that are chosen are able to look back and become disciples and be able to comfort people with the
Hmm.
comfort that they had.
Yeah.
What I went through, I can come, and the purpose why you went through is so that I can serve someone else, and bring them from that space. Guys, you were listening to Tyler, and I always tell people, Tyler, that meditation comes in many forms. It's very important that you allow yourself the time to slow down. Meditation comes in walks. Meditation comes through prayer. Meditation comes through the traditional way of meditation. It comes through uh, everything that I talked to a woman one time, said to me, her meditation was when she vacuumed out. And I was like, yes. I wanted people to realize that it doesn't matter what fits for you that will cause you to slow your thoughts down. Investigate, why am I thinking this way? What is it for? Can I allow the results of these thoughts that are sitting here to want to entertain it enough to give birth to that? And that's the beauty about the day of visitation. I tells you, it slows us down to engage in a conversation with ourselves and with life, and I believe God, the outside. We have this conversation with him, and as we slow down, we're capable and ready for that, and it'll change your life. Here you are, he gave you a good woman, you are a jerk, as you said, and you're walking through all of this stuff, Tyler. You're coming out, you swipe your card, and I tell people another nugget I want to leave you guys. You, those that are living a circular life, you are circular because you haven't made a decision yet. You're thinking about it, and but the minute that you make a decision, you will do the things necessary to come out. You have to believe it so much so yourself. I call it a statement of faith. You have to believe it more than anyone else. And when you believe it, you will begin to stand up to take the necessary steps to make it come to pass. Tyler did. he swiped a card. That was the beginning. What was he doing? He was gaining knowledge. You're going to have to do the same. You're going to have to gain knowledge so that you can move from the space you are today to where Tyler is. Talk to us, Tyler, when you swipe that thing and you began to get the knowledge now, because I know it's still it's still a seed, if you will, and the seed have to be planted and germinate and bear fruit and all that type of stuff. So here you're gathering knowledge. How did it make you feel as you were gathering knowledge, and yet you're still dealing with the other thing that is behind you here with your location and how that mental dance that you're going through? Talk about the
Yeah,
place, my friend.
well, it certainly, I don't know if this is good or bad, but I mean, it certainly served as a distraction as well. So I was very clear on my path. I had a lot of time to digest where I was and where I wanted to go for 2 years. And
Yeah,
then it was time for action, which is different than thinking. And I want to prep that because I know a couple people
yeah,
that are very close to me that are really high ambitions and they don't ever take an action.
yeah.
They don't take the leap of faith. And
Yep.
yeah, they sit in that
Yeah,
circular life
I
that you're
think
talking
it's
about.
yeah,
So took action, kept learning. Getting my mind off of my own ailment was really helpful. And through learning, I don't know if
hmm
it's neurological restructuring, but I actually fell in love with the process of learning. And man, that's a really
yeah,
beneficial thing for most professions. Because when I was in school, I was, yeah,
yeah. It is restructuring, though. It is restructuring, Tyler. It's the information that you allow, and when you fall in love with it, you give it the opportunity to restructure you, and so it's a changing of
yeah,
your perspective, how you look at life, how you perceive it. What is the dance, that the exchange, if you will, that you're having with your thoughts and the production married with your action? What is this dance going to engage as you begin to rewire your mind? You're actually rewiring
yeah,
your
yeah. I
mind.
mean, like I said, knowing myself and those who know me, I met people, years later, and one of them said, "You talk different. What happened?" And these are not people close enough to me where I'm going to walk them through. And if you are close to death or have a major ailment or a major traumatic, event in your life, you really find out who you lean on because it's not a public thing. I'm not going out to every single
Yeah,
person I went to high school with or college and talking about this and seeking affirmation and support, as we do in normal life, by the way, with social posts and all these things that artificially make us feel better.
yeah,
It was a very small circle. I even ignored half of
yeah,
my friends group because I couldn't mentally handle that. You don't know what to
yeah,
say. Life gets real quickly. So I fell in love with learning, continued learning, started to regain some of that social capacity that I would say I was born with or raised with, right? With the two silver tongued devils I had for parents. So
yeah.
so yeah, I just started seeking um, mentorship. Most people would seek
Yeah,
money as quickly as possible, and that was certainly a temptation. But I started seeking mentorship, and after reading and listening to Tim Ferriss as well, one of the best values you can give to somebody, or the quickest ways you can get inside, um, that type of atmosphere, is by volunteering. Grew up doing that, as you joked about a little bit.
yeah,
So I'd go work for
yeah,
people who were wildly successful
yeah,
for free and do anything I possibly could to learn
yeah,
how they got there, what roadblocks to avoid. And by nature, through, I think, natural reciprocity, they start making introductions. And then I start going out to other agencies and offering
yes,
them something free of value. And they start sending me their customers. And I just educate the customer. And if they liked what they saw, I will be 100% honest with you. Some of it was fake it till you make it, because, and not from a knowledge sense. I had plenty of
yeah,
knowledge and execution capability, but likely from a competence sense, right? Like, I'm not an official
Mhm.
agency at
Yeah.
that point, but you're going to pay me to help you. So, so I battled with integrity around that. I didn't lie or anything, but I felt less than because you could go work for the huge agency down the
Yeah.
street, and I'm a one guy band at that time. So, yeah, so gained a lot of client base. Remembered one of my good friends from restaurant days who was an electrical engineer and said, "Would you like to quit your job, wing it, and start a company with me?" Dead serious. And he's like, "Okay." And we did it.
Yeah.
And there's another really great guy who helped
Nice.
us in the beginning as well. David as well was his name. But yeah, we had a blast. It was a hard time. We worked out of his basement. We ate ramen. We did all the things, the stereotypical things, but
Hmm.
and I couldn't afford gas back and forth because he lived an hour away. So we stayed in his basement every week. We'd stay up there 4 nights. Grew. We learned hard lessons along the way too. Just in terms of what we should offer, what we shouldn't. So it ended
Yeah.
up just being
Yeah.
myself and another partner. But yeah, it's a wild journey, man. And all grew that. Just for listeners, I'm a nobody with major health issues from an entirely different background, self-taught marketer, ended up growing nuclear to $5 million in 5 years and made the Inc. 500 list,
Wow.
which
Nice. Congrats. Yeah.
it's
That is awesome.
it's an anomaly.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it is. It is.
statistically. So
Statistically, that's as far as how many businesses achieve that in that time frame is very few of them, man. So
mhm.
again, you guys that are listening to us, man, especially he's talking about the SEO branding and utilizing that knowledge within the platforms that are out there like Google and all the other search portals and things like that that utilizes that and how to maximize you and your gifts, whatever that is that you're involved in. um, Tyler is here to take you to that next level. And again, as I mentioned on the onset, I'm going to give you guys that information because it's really important. My desire is for you to, as Tyler said to his friend, you want to quit your job and wing it with me. I got someone that will be your wingman, guys, and he is here, and I want you guys to be able to access him. And again, I'll give you that information. Tyler, talk to us about um, the space now as you begin to nurture and your business and begin to move from space to space, and you're gaining knowledge. Talk to us about some of those. I like you bringing in, if from your recollection, a customer, if you will, someone that showed up and is
Mhm.
totally um, with dares in the headlight look, and they're gone all over the place, and you could see them when you're coming a mile away, and now you're going to take them and you nurture them. Talk to us about one of those experiences, if you will, and how it impacted that individual and yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, so impacts on both sides that I think are worth mentioning, outside of being able to continue to grow my mind, which again has become something that I really enjoy. Helping people, that seed that was still there as a child, kind of the way that I was
Yeah.
raised, through work and service. This was kind of a way to continue doing that. And the types of people I were able to help, business owners. And at a first glance, if I were to hear that, it's like, okay, well, you're helping somebody who already is successful get more successful. It's like, no, as a business owner, I'll tell you, I'm helping their employees stay employed, and I'm helping their
Yeah.
employees pay their bills, and I'm helping their customers get help as well. And there's a huge impact and trickle down effect, whether you align with the business owner or not, genuinely, because they're
Yeah.
stewarding other people that you are actually helping. And I think that's a really important thing because I know everybody out there listening, somebody's got a boss they don't like. So, but if you can help them in their company and their growth, even if that personality isn't your favorite, the impact that that person has financially and other people's life and otherwise still is material, and it's worth thinking about. So helping customers and helping those first customers and watching their business grow as a result of what I've done helped fuel the fire, right? Because there's motivation of I need
Yeah.
to pay bills, and then there's this motivation of I love learning, and now it's, hey, it's working and I can help people, and this whole ecosystem makes sense. And so I would say, for loosely in my career, 84 to 86% of the time, and we track, you'd think I'm like generally just telling you this, but it's like
Yeah.
I've really paid attention to this. It works really well. But a downside to marketing, as you know, coming from marketing, is
Yeah.
I cannot force humans to buy things. I
Yeah.
can't. And I'm not talking about customers buying what I'm selling. I'm talking about their customers buying their products, because it is, I'd say, like the downside to this industry is you do everything in your wheelhouse. You get them to show up first, you reposition them online, you do A, B, and C, and no one still wants to buy what they're selling.
Yeah.
And I take it personally.
It's not my choice or my ability to be able to force people to do that,
Yeah.
but again, still taking it personally. I carry that with me. It's kind of a little bit of a little bit of
that's
heavyweight. So
that's part of it, I think.
I'm hearing the echo now.
oh,
But that's part of it, to migrate, and because you love what you do.
You take it personally, and it's because it's your the exchange that you're having with your clients and so forth. It's you.
mhm.
And when you don't see the results, you kind of begin to take it personally. And
Yeah,
I tell people the imposter syndrome that you all go through, and you mentioned it a little.
that's right.
There's nothing that helps you through that. Like as you gain your information, you're confident. But when you begin to see the results, the process working and changing individuals, that's the type of stuff that starts to reside in you and make you go, okay, I'm all right. I'm not an imposter, as they say, because we all go through that piece, Tyler, where you are there, and then you find yourself in a space where you're not there, and you're looking around, going, "Am I in the right place?"
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a part of the journey, and talk to people about that, because that is, some people, we lose some right there, Tyler. We lose some people right there at that situation. Talk to them as to how did you, and I know what you're going to say, but I want them to hear it. How did you move through that?
So I'll just preface, from lack of confidence or imposter syndrome to getting started to the other side of being quote unquote successful, whatever dictates success. So I just kept going. So I just keep moving forward, another step at a time, keep moving forward. And obviously positioning yourself in a friendly light, being charismatic is important. And not just from a sales effect standpoint, but back to the federal land that I came from, like profiling was a big part of what I did. And successful people who need help want to feel like they're working with other successful people who can help.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so you're not going to go to your future customers and say, okay, so I'm living in a $300 bedroom a month. And no, it's like, talk about them, and confidence is key. There's a very fine line, not dishonesty. I'm not advocating for that, but confidence in yourself. You've done the time, you've learned. And if you're not fully confident in your product, give it to them at a more fair price, and feel free to communicate that if you'd like. But basically, it is just one. I know it's really cliche and it's more, but don't stop. Keep going.
Yeah.
One step at a time.
I knew you were going to say it.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to say it, because that thread, Tyler, is all through your life.
Yeah.
From the volunteering at the farm, I'll keep that theme, all the way through your life. That pieces there, and it's really important. You must be able to keep moving because it is in the movement. And I tell people, if you understand laws, basic laws, the laws of movement will always create and keep that energy moving. But when you stop, you're creating another law, stagnation. And what happens with that law? And so as you begin to move, just take a step, just get up one day and do one thing. If that's all you can do it 100%. And you will feel good about yourself. Get up another day and do a little half more than what you did. But keep moving. Don't stay stagnant, because when a water source is stagnant, what happens in that. All kinds of things that can do damage to your body manifest within that space when it's stagnant. But when it's moving and it's fresh, it becomes, like you said, fresh water you can drink and stuff like that. So you have taken this business, you've grown it, you are, quote unquote, in some people's eyes and so forth, you're a success. In yours, I know you're still got things to do. You have the family coming, which will change your life. And that is a great space to be, man. Enjoy that, because it is a true statement, Tyler. Time flies, it moves. And before you know it, you will have adults that you are having conversation with. So take that space, man, with your beautiful woman that is strong and was able to support you when you're going through, and your child, and just pour all your love in that person, because they are going to be a part of this beautiful dance that we call life. And I know that space. So, man, so I'm telling you, enjoy it, because it goes quickly. Trust me, it really does. So here you are, you're moving forward, man. Your life is getting there. You have this these classes for people. And again, I've started, when Tyler came on, I kept telling you guys, get to him, because Tyler, the reason I'm saying this, because I know from my interviews with people, and I'm going to send out some information to other people that I know to tell them to get in touch with you, because people that are in this space of, quote unquote, spirituality, and they have this desire to do things in that realm, in human development and so forth, but they're not gifted. Their gifts is not business, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's why there are people like you. And so I'm going to do my best to steer them, and that's why I'm stopping and just reiterating to everyone that is listening to me, if you have something that is just in your heart and you want to change your trajectory for yourself and your family and become an entrepreneur, here is someone that can walk with you to take you, and just start small, man. Get in touch with him. He will appreciate the smallness of you, and he will guide you and make you into something that you can trust. And thanks for coming to Threads of Enlightenment, man.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed it.
It's been really good. And again, I know I apologize for interrupting and telling the people to come to you, because I think it's valuable what you have, the services that you provide. And I think this time that people began to, because of fearfulness and different mindset that they have about someone coming into their business, open your mouth, surrender, and get the help. And Tyler will be able to assist you to get there. Again, thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. I appreciate you.